Captain Sarah Chen stared at the holographic display floating above her desk, her coffee growing cold as she read the same transmission for the fifth time. The words hadn't changed, but their implications seemed to grow heavier with each reading. After 3 years of careful diplomatic exchanges with the Zephyrian Collective, they had finally made an unprecedented request. Captain Chen, we formally request a joint operation. Our analysis suggests human tactical flexibility could complement our technological superiority. We propose a rescue mission to retrieve our captured research team from Kepler 442b. You would be our first human operational partner. We await your decision. The message was signed by Commander HFY, whose previous communications had been formal to the point of coldness. The Zephyrians were known throughout the galaxy for their advanced technology and their complete lack of trust in other species. Their ships could bend space itself, their weapons could atomize asteroids, and their shields were legendary. But they had one weakness that every species in the known galaxy whispered about in fear and respect. They couldn't adapt. Sarah pushed back from her desk and walked to the viewport. The stars stretched endlessly before her, and somewhere among them, a Zephyrian research team was trapped on a hostile world. The collective had tried twice to rescue them using their standard protocols. Both attempts had failed catastrophically. Their rigid military doctrine, while devastatingly effective in conventional warfare, crumbled when faced with unpredictable situations. That's where humans came in. 3 years ago, when the Terran Federation had first encountered the Zephyrian Collective, it had been during a chaotic first contact scenario. A rogue asteroid had been hurtling toward a Zephyrian colony world, and their automated defense systems had malfunctioned. The human exploration vessel, Persistence, had been in the system, conducting routine surveys. While the Zephyrians ran calculations and debated optimal solutions, Captain Chen had done what humans did best. She improvised. Using mining charges and creative physics, her crew had nudged the asteroid into a decaying orbit that burned it up in the planet's atmosphere. The Zephyrians had been saved by what they later described as impossible tactical decisions based on incomplete data. From that moment, they had been fascinated by humanity's greatest strength and what they perceived as humanity's greatest flaw, the ability to make split-second decisions without complete information. Sarah's communication console chimed. Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from the collective, her communications officer announced. Put it through to my ready room, Sarah replied, settling back into her chair. The hologram that materialized wasn't the usual static image. This time, she found herself looking at Commander HFY in real time across the vastness of space. The Zephyrian was tall, easily 7 feet, with crystalline blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the artificial light of his ship's bridge. 4 arms moved with mechanical precision as he operated controls beyond the camera's range. Captain Chen, he said, his voice carrying the harmonic undertones characteristic of his species. I trust you have considered our proposal. I have, Sarah replied carefully, but I need more information. What exactly happened to your people on Kepler 442b? HFY's large, multifaceted eyes clicked as they refocused. The planet was designated for mineral survey. Our team of 6 researchers established a standard survey camp in the northern hemisphere. Initial scans indicated no intelligent life, no dangerous predators, and stable atmospheric conditions. But something went wrong. Affirmative. On survey day 17, the research team reported unusual seismic activity. They requested extraction as per Protocol 7 Alpha 9. However, when our transport arrived at the designated coordinates, the team was gone. Sarah leaned forward. Gone how? Any signs of struggle? Equipment left behind? Negative on struggle indicators. All equipment was present and functional. However, our subsequent orbital scans detected the team's life signs approximately 2 kilometers underground in what appears to be a vast cave system that did not exist on our initial surveys. They fell through? Unknown. The cave system shows signs of artificial construction, yet no intelligence was detected during our initial 3-month survey. Our rescue attempts have been unsuccessful. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Unsuccessful how? Vexahai's skin shifted to a darker blue, which Sarah had learned indicated embarrassment or frustration. Our first rescue team followed standard underground operation protocols. They established a secure perimeter, deployed illumination drones, and began systematic exploration. They were taken. Taken by who? Unknown. Our monitoring drones recorded them entering a large cavern. 17 minutes later, all communication ceased. When our backup team arrived, they found the cavern empty except for their equipment. And the second attempt? We deployed our most advanced combat unit with full sensor arrays and energy weapons. They lasted 31 minutes before communication was lost. Our final drone transmission showed them moving through corridors that seemed to shift and change configuration. Sarah sat back in her chair, processing the information. A shape-shifting underground complex, inhabitants who could make armed Zephyrian soldiers disappear without a trace, and somehow, these beings had remained completely hidden during a 3-month survey. It sounded like a nightmare scenario that would challenge even human adaptability. Commander, why do you think humans would succeed where your people failed? Vexahai's 4 arms gestured in what Sarah had learned was the Zephyrian equivalent of a shrug. Your species has demonstrated an unprecedented ability to function in situations with incomplete data and constantly changing parameters. Our tactical simulations suggest that human unpredictability might be the optimal strategy against an unknown enemy employing similar tactics. You want us to be unpredictable on purpose? Affirmative. Our analysis of your successful first contact rescue operation indicates that you make optimal decisions using what we would consider insufficient information. You adapt your strategies in real time based on environmental changes. These are capabilities our people lack. Sarah considered this. The Zephyrians were asking humans to do exactly what made them uncomfortable, to act without a plan, to improvise, to make it up as they went along. It was flattering and terrifying in equal measure. What resources would you provide for this joint operation? Full access to our technological capabilities, personal protection systems, advanced sensors, energy weapons, and transportation. Additionally, you would have real-time access to our tactical analysis systems, though we acknowledge you may choose to disregard our recommendations. And what would you want from us? Vexahai paused, his skin shifting through several color variations. Tactical leadership. We would provide the tools, but we request that human personnel make the operational decisions. Our people would serve as support staff, providing technical assistance as directed by your team. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The Zephyrian Collective was essentially asking to become support staff for humans on a rescue mission. These were beings whose technology could reshape planets, and they were willing to let humans call the shots because they recognized that sometimes superior firepower wasn't enough. Commander, I need to ask you something directly. Are you afraid? The question seemed to catch Vexahai off guard. His skin rippled through several colors before settling on a deep violet. Fear is not a precise translation for our emotional state. We experience concern. Our people are trapped in a situation we cannot adequately analyze or predict. Our standard protocols have failed. We have calculated that working with humans increases the probability of mission success by 37%. That doesn't sound like much. Captain Chen, a 37% increase in survival probability represents the difference between total mission failure and possible success. From our perspective, this is significant. Sarah nodded slowly. The weight of the decision pressed down on her. If she agreed, She would be taking responsibility not just for rescuing the Zephyrian research team, but for the lives of however many humans and Zephyrians would be involved in the operation. If she refused, those trapped researchers would almost certainly die. "I'll need to assemble a team," she said finally. Vexhi's skin shifted to a warm golden color. "You accept?" "I accept, but I have conditions." "State them." "First, my people have final say on all tactical decisions during the operation. No arguments, no second guessing. If we say retreat, we retreat. If we say attack, we attack." "Agreed." "Second, we need complete access to all your intelligence on this planet. Everything you recorded, every scan, every piece of data from your failed rescue attempts." "Agreed." "Third, if this goes badly, if we lose people because I made a bad call, I want your guarantee that the collective won't hold Earth responsible." Vexhi's skin rippled again. "Captain, may I speak freely?" "Always." "Your concern for your people's welfare and your willingness to accept personal responsibility for potential failure are precisely why we requested human participation in this operation. The collective understands that uncertainty carries risk." "We accept this." Sarah smiled grimly. "Then let's go save your people, Commander. I'll need 2 days to assemble my team and brief them. Can your people hold out that long?" "Our calculations suggest they have sufficient resources for approximately 6 more days. 2 days is acceptable." "Good. Transmit all your data to my ship's computers. We'll review everything and contact you with our mission plan." As Vexhi's hologram faded, Sarah found herself staring out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, beings unlike any humans had ever encountered were trapped underground, waiting for rescue. And somehow, the most technologically advanced species in the known galaxy was counting on human unpredictability to save them. She activated her ship's communication system. "This is the captain. I need Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez, Chief Petty Officer Johnson, and Dr. Yamamoto in Briefing Room 1 in 30 minutes. Priority Alpha." As her senior staff acknowledged the summons, Sarah began reviewing the data streaming in from the Zephyrian ship. What she saw made her stomach clench. The underground complex wasn't just large, it was vast. Corridors stretched for kilometers in seemingly impossible configurations. Chambers appeared and disappeared between sensor sweeps. And somewhere in that maze, 12 beings were waiting for rescue. The irony wasn't lost on her. Humanity's first major joint operation with an alien species would take place in darkness, underground, against an unknown enemy. They would be going in blind, armed with superior technology they barely understood, guided only by human instinct and the hope that sometimes making it up as you go along was enough. Sarah finished her cold coffee and began planning the impossible. The surface of Kepler 442b looked deceptively peaceful under the pale orange light of its distant star. Sarah Chen adjusted her breathing apparatus as she stepped off the Zephyrian transport craft, feeling the slightly heavier gravity pull at her shoulders. The landing zone was a flat expanse of rust-colored rock surrounded by low hills covered in what looked like metallic vegetation that chimed softly in the thin wind. "Atmospheric composition is safe for human respiration with minimal filtration," reported Dr. Elena Yamamoto, the team's xenobiologist and medical officer. She was scanning the air with a handheld device, her dark eyes focused on the readouts. "Gravity is 1.3 Earth standard, but nothing we can't handle." Lieutenant Commander Miguel Rodriguez surveyed the area through his tactical scope. "No movement detected on any spectrum. Whatever's down there, it's not showing itself." Rodriguez was Sarah's tactical officer and the closest thing to a Special Forces operative they had on the ship. His lean frame moved with the controlled precision of someone who had seen combat. Chief Petty Officer Marcus Johnson was unpacking equipment with the methodical efficiency that had made him Sarah's go-to engineer for impossible situations. "Ma'am, the Zephyrian gear is integrated and ready. I've got to say, their stuff makes our equipment look like stone axes." Sarah nodded, watching as 6 Zephyrian soldiers arranged themselves in a perfect defensive formation around the human team. Their leader, Sub-Commander Kixtai, approached with the flowing gait characteristic of his species. "Captain Chen, our sensors indicate the entrance to the underground complex is 3.7 kilometers northeast of this position. The cave opening was not present during our initial surveys." "You're sure it wasn't just hidden?" "Negative. Our survey protocols include deep subsurface scanning. The cave system did not exist 3 weeks ago." Rodriguez looked up from his equipment check. "Boss, are we talking about something that can literally reshape terrain?" "That's the working theory," Sarah replied grimly. "Elena, any thoughts on what kind of biology could manage something like that?" Dr. Yamamoto finished her atmospheric readings and shouldered her pack. "Theoretically, a colony organism with mineral manipulation capabilities could reshape underground spaces. Think of termites or ants, but with the ability to process rock at a molecular level, though that would require an incredible amount of energy and coordination." "The energy readings from the complex support this hypothesis," Kixtai added. "We detect significant thermal output and electromagnetic activity consistent with large-scale matter manipulation." Sarah activated her communication link to Commander Vexhai, who was monitoring the operation from orbit. "Commander, we're approaching the cave entrance. Any change in the status of your people?" "Negative, Captain. Life signs remain stable but stationary. They appear to be in some form of stasis." "Understood. We're going in." The hike to the cave entrance took them across terrain that seemed normal but felt wrong in ways Sarah couldn't articulate. The metallic vegetation created a constant soft chiming that seemed almost musical, but the harmony was slightly off, like an orchestra where all the instruments were tuned just a fraction too high or too low. "Anyone else getting a weird feeling from this place?" Rodriguez asked as they crested a small rise. "The electromagnetic readings are fluctuating in patterns that don't match natural phenomena," Johnson reported. "It's like the entire planet is humming." Dr. Yamamoto stopped suddenly, holding up her hand. "Wait! Look at the vegetation patterns." Sarah followed her gaze and felt her breath catch. The metallic plants weren't randomly distributed. They formed intricate geometric patterns that extended as far as she could see, creating a vast mandala across the landscape. "That wasn't in the survey data," Rodriguez said quietly. Kixtai consulted his scanner. "Confirmed. These patterns are new. They have appeared since our last orbital survey 6 days ago." "The whole planet is changing," Sarah realized. "This isn't just about the cave system. Something is actively reshaping this entire world." They reached the cave entrance 20 minutes later. The opening was a perfect circle, 5 meters in diameter, cut into the rocky ground with mathematical precision. The edges showed no tool marks, no signs of excavation. It was as if the rock had simply decided to not exist in that space anymore. Depth readings show the tunnel extends down at a 30-degree angle for approximately 200 meters before opening into a larger chamber, Kixtai reported. "This matches the path taken by our previous teams." Sarah peered into the darkness. The Zephyrian portable lighting systems illuminated the tunnel, revealing walls that were perfectly smooth and seemed to shimmer with their own faint bioluminescence. "No sign of the previous rescue teams?" "Negative. Their equipment would be detectable by our sensors if it remained in the tunnel." Rodriguez checked his weapon, a hybrid of human and Zephyrian technology that could fire both energy pulses and conventional projectiles. "Rules of engagement, Captain? Try to avoid killing anything until we know what we're dealing with. Our priority is rescue, not conquest. But if something threatens the team or the hostages, you have authorization to use any necessary force. Dr. Yamamoto adjusted her medical kit and scanner array. I'm reading complex biochemical signatures from down there. Whatever's in the cave system, it's definitely alive. Sarah made one final check of her equipment. The Zephyrian personal shield generator felt strange on her belt, a smooth, crystalline device that supposedly could stop anything short of a direct hit from a starship weapon. Her communication system was tied into both the human team network and the Zephyrian command structure. Most importantly, she carried a small device that Vexhai had personally given her, an emergency beacon that would signal for immediate extraction if activated. All right, people. We go in slow and quiet. Johnson, you're on point with sensors. Rodriguez covers our 6. Elena, stay in the middle and keep scanning for biological threats. Kicks tie. Your people maintain formation, but follow our lead. The descent into the cave was eerily peaceful. Their footsteps echoed softly off the smooth walls, and the bioluminescent glow seemed to pulse gently in response to their presence. As they went deeper, Sarah began to notice that the tunnel wasn't just smooth, it was alive. The walls rippled occasionally with peristaltic motions, like the inside of some vast digestive tract. "Boss," Johnson's voice was tight with tension. "I'm getting readings that don't make sense. The walls are showing cellular activity, but the structure is definitely mineral. It's like stone that thinks it's alive." "Or something alive that thinks it's stone," Dr. Yamamoto added. "The biochemical complexity is incredible. I'm seeing proteins, nucleic acids, but also crystalline matrices that shouldn't be able to exist in biological systems." They emerged into the first large chamber after 30 minutes of careful descent. Sarah's breath caught as her light illuminated the space. The chamber was vast, easily 50 meters across, with a ceiling that disappeared into darkness above them. But what made her stop in amazement were the walls. They were covered in what looked like a cross between coral reef and circuit board. Organic structures that pulsed with their own light were integrated seamlessly with geometric patterns that could only be artificial. Streams of luminous fluid flowed through transparent tubes that wove between the organic and artificial elements like blood vessels. "My God," Dr. Yamamoto whispered, "this is a hybrid ecosystem. Biological and technological integration on a scale we've never seen." Rodriguez kept his weapon ready, scanning the chamber. "It's beautiful. But where are the Zephyrian teams? According to their data, this is where they should be." Kixtai was consulting his scanner, his skin shifting through worried color patterns. "Life sign readings indicate the research team is approximately 1.3 kilometers deeper in the complex. However, the configuration does not match our previous survey data." The tunnels have changed again, Sarah realized. As if responding to her words, the chamber around them began to shift. The coral-like structures pulsed more brightly, and new passages began to open in the walls with the smooth precision of an iris opening. "Movement!" Rodriguez called out, but he didn't fire. From one of the newly opened passages came a figure that made everyone freeze. It walked on 2 legs like a human or Zephyrian, but its body seemed to be made of the same hybrid organic crystalline material as the walls. It was roughly humanoid in shape, but clearly not from any species they had encountered. Its surface reflected their lights like polished stone, but moved with the fluid grace of living tissue. The being stopped 5 meters away and seemed to study them. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere at once, resonating through the chamber walls themselves. "Welcome, unpredictable ones. We have been waiting for you." Sarah felt her heart racing, but forced herself to remain calm. This was why the Zephyrians had needed humans. They would have followed protocol, demanded identification, established communication procedures. But something told Sarah that wouldn't work here. "You're holding our friends," she said simply. "We are preserving them. They came with rigid patterns, inflexible thoughts. They could not adapt to our reality, so we placed them in stasis to prevent their dissolution. Rodriguez kept his weapon lowered, but ready. What do you mean by dissolution? Your crystal friends think in straight lines, binary choices, absolute categories. Our reality is fluid, adaptive, multidimensional. Exposure to our environment caused their thought patterns to become chaotic. Stasis preserves their mental integrity. Dr. Yamamoto stepped forward slightly. Are you saying that your reality is somehow incompatible with Zephyrian psychology? The crystalline ones cannot process ambiguity. They require definitive answers to questions that have no single solution. They become trapped in logical loops when faced with our nature. Sarah began to understand. But humans are different. Yes, you think in approximations, in maybes and possibilities. You are comfortable with uncertainty. You can exist in our space without losing your essential patterns. Kixtai's skin had shifted to a pale blue, indicating deep confusion. Captain, I do not understand this entity's statements. How can reality itself be incompatible with thought processes? The hybrid being seemed to pulse with amusement. Observe. The chamber around them shifted again, but this time more dramatically. The walls began to flow like water, reorganizing themselves into new configurations. Passages appeared and disappeared. The ceiling became the floor, and the floor stretched away into impossible distances. The laws of physics seemed to bend and twist around them. Rodriguez stumbled as his sense of direction became meaningless. Johnson's scanners screamed warnings as they tried to process readings that violated multiple laws of physics. Kixtai and his soldiers stood frozen, their logical minds unable to process what they were experiencing. But Sarah found that she could still think clearly. The impossible geometry was disturbing, but her mind simply accepted it as another challenge to adapt to. It's like being inside a four-dimensional space, she said. We can only perceive parts of it at any given time. Exactly. Your minds can function in uncertainty. The crystalline ones cannot. They require the universe to make logical sense. Dr. Yamamoto was taking readings with shaking hands, but her voice remained steady. How long have our people been in stasis? Time flows differently here. For them, no time has passed. For you, it has been days. Both are true simultaneously. Sarah made a decision that would have been impossible for a Zephyrian. She stopped trying to understand and simply acted. We want our friends back. All of them. What do you need from us? The being seemed to consider this. You interest us. Biological entities that can think outside rigid patterns while maintaining cohesive identity. We wish to study this capability. In exchange for our people? In exchange for partnership. We are explorers, like you. We reshape reality to understand it better, but our perspective is limited by our nature. You could help us see through other eyes. Rodriguez looked at Sarah with concern. Captain, this sounds like we're being recruited. What exactly are you proposing? Sarah asked the being. Some of you remain with us for a period of study. We learn from your adaptive thinking. In return, we release all prisoners and share our understanding of reality manipulation. Sarah felt the weight of the decision. The Zephyrians had asked her to be unpredictable, to make choices their logical minds couldn't process. This was exactly that kind of moment. I'll stay, she said. Release the others. Captain, no, Rodriguez stepped forward. We're not leaving you here. But Dr. Yamamoto was looking at Sarah with understanding in her eyes. She's not sacrificing herself. She's negotiating a cultural exchange. These beings aren't hostile. They're curious. The hybrid being pulsed with what might have been approval. The medical one sees clearly. This is not capture, but collaboration. Captain Chen would be our guest and teacher, not our prisoner. Sarah turned to Kixtai, who was still struggling to process the shifting environment. Sub-Commander, Can you function well enough to lead the others back to the surface? Kixtai's skin cycled through several colors before settling on a determined orange. Affirmative, Captain. Though I confess I do not understand how you can make decisions in this environment. That's exactly why we're here, Sarah replied. Human unpredictability isn't just useful in combat. It's useful in situations where logic isn't enough. The chamber shifted again, and suddenly they were in a vast space filled with crystalline pods. Inside each pod, Sarah could see the unmistakable forms of Zephyrians in suspended animation. 12 pods total, the original research team and both rescue teams. They will awaken safely on the surface, the being assured them. The transition from our reality to yours requires careful management for their psychological stability. As the rescue teams began the complex process of extracting the pods, Sarah found herself alone with the hybrid being. The space around them had stabilized into something that almost made sense. A laboratory or study area with walls that occasionally rippled like water. You're nervous, the being observed, but not afraid. I'm curious, Sarah admitted. What you're offering could change everything we understand about physics, about reality itself. And you are willing to risk unknown consequences for that knowledge? Sarah smiled. Commander Vexhai was right. Humans are comfortable with uncertainty. Sometimes the best way forward is to jump and figure out how to land on the way down. The being pulsed with what she was beginning to recognize as amusement. This will be an interesting exchange indeed. 6 months later, Captain Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the Joint Research Station orbiting Kepler 442b, watching as impossible geometries unfolded in the space around them. The station itself was a marvel of hybrid technology, human adaptability, Zephyrian precision, and architect innovation working together to create something none of the three species could have built alone. The architects, as they had chosen to be called, had proven to be everything they had promised and more. Their ability to manipulate reality at the quantum level had revolutionized not just science, but philosophy. They existed partially in normal space and partially in what they called the possibility realm, a dimension where potential futures and alternative realities could be observed and to some extent influenced. Captain Chen, came the familiar harmonic voice of Commander Vexhai through the communication system. The Terran Federation Council has transmitted their formal acceptance of the Tripartite Alliance. Earth is officially committed to the Joint Exploration Program. Sarah smiled as she watched a group of human children playing in the station's recreation area. They were chasing geometric patterns that the young architects created for them. Shapes that existed in 4 dimensions, but appeared to the children as colored lights that they could almost but not quite catch. The children laughed with delight at the impossible game, while their parents watched nervously. But that was the difference between humans and Zephyrians, Sarah reflected. Human children instinctively understood that some things didn't need to make complete sense to be wonderful. Any word from the exploration teams? She asked. Affirmative. The joint expedition to the Vega system has made contact with another reality manipulation species. Initial reports suggest they are friendly, but extremely alien. The team is requesting additional human personnel to assist with first contact protocols. That had become the new pattern. Zephyrians provided the technology and tactical analysis, architects provided reality-shaping capabilities and dimensional insights, and humans provided the crucial ability to adapt, improvise, and make friends with the incomprehensible. It was a combination that was proving remarkably successful. Dr. Elena Yamamoto appeared beside her at the observation window, carrying a data pad covered with readings that would have been impossible 6 months ago. Sarah, you need to see this. The architects have been sharing more of their dimensional mathematics with our research teams. What we're learning is changing everything we thought we knew about space, time, and consciousness. How so? Elena called up a holographic display that showed a complex, multidimensional model. They've been studying human consciousness during our exchange program. It turns out that human brains naturally process information in ways that mirror their dimensional mathematics. We think in approximations and possibilities because our consciousness exists partially outside normal spacetime. Sarah stared at the display. Are you saying humans are naturally dimensional beings? Not exactly, but close. Human consciousness appears to sample potential realities when making decisions. That's why we can adapt so quickly to impossible situations. We're unconsciously exploring alternative approaches across multiple probability streams. This explained so much. Why humans could function in architect reality space when Zephyrians couldn't. Why human tactical flexibility seemed almost supernatural to more logical species. Humans weren't just good at making it up as they went along. They were literally accessing a broader spectrum of possible solutions. The implications for interspecies cooperation are enormous, Elena continued. We're not just good at first contact because we're social or adaptable. We're good at it because we can unconsciously perceive how interactions might unfold across multiple probability streams. A soft chiming indicated an incoming transmission from the planet's surface. Sarah activated the communication link and found herself looking at Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez, who was leading the ongoing cultural exchange program with the Architect colony. Captain, we've had a breakthrough. The Architects have been teaching our people their reality-shaping techniques, and some of the humans are actually learning to do it. Sarah felt her breath catch. They're learning to manipulate reality. On a small scale, yes. Turns out human intuition and architect mathematics complement each other perfectly. Our people can feel their way through dimensional manipulations that would take the architects hours to calculate. This was unprecedented. The idea that humans could learn alien abilities that were based on completely different types of consciousness suggested possibilities that no one had imagined. How many of our people are showing these abilities? About 60% of the volunteers show some capability. The children are especially good at it. They don't have the adult resistance to impossible things. Sarah thought about those children playing with four-dimensional toys. They weren't just adapting to architect reality, they were learning to shape it themselves. Miguel, I want you to be very careful with this. We're dealing with forces we don't fully understand. Understood, Captain. But Sarah, you should know that the architects are as excited about this as we are. They say that humans are the first species they've encountered that can truly share their reality rather than just visiting it. A new voice entered the conversation as Chief Petty Officer Johnson contacted them from the engineering section. Captain, the Zephyrians have been running calculations on the human-architect collaboration data. Commander Vex-High wants to speak with you immediately. Sarah found Vex-High in the Joint Command Center, his crystalline skin cycling through color patterns she had never seen before. Rapid shifts between gold, blue, and violet that indicated extreme excitement or agitation. Captain Chen, our analysis of the human architect learning process has revealed something extraordinary. The mathematical models suggest that this partnership could lead to capabilities that surpass anything in our databases. What kind of capabilities? Faster-than-light travel without mechanical systems. Communication across galactic distances instantaneously. The ability to prevent natural disasters by altering probability streams. Possibly even limited time manipulation. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. These weren't just new technologies, they were godlike powers. Vex-High, are you sure about these calculations? Our models are preliminary but consistent. The combination of human intuitive probability processing, architect reality manipulation, and our technological precision could revolutionize existence itself for all spacefaring species. This was exactly the kind of moment that human unpredictability was designed for. A choice with incomplete information and consequences that couldn't be fully calculated. The Zephyrians would want to run more simulations, develop protocols, create safety measures. The architects would want to explore the mathematical possibilities across multiple dimensions. But humans had to choose now, based on instinct and hope. Commander, I want you to transmit a message to Earth, to the collective homeworld, and to the Architect Council simultaneously. Tell them that we're proposing to establish a permanent alliance between our three species, not just for exploration, but for mutual development and protection. Vexhi's skin shifted to a worried blue. Captain, such a proposal would require extensive diplomatic preparation. The implications are vast. The implications are exactly why we can't wait for extensive preparation. We've stumbled onto something that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. If we're going to develop these capabilities, we need to do it together, with safeguards and mutual oversight. Sarah activated the station-wide communication system. This is Captain Chen to all personnel. We are about to transmit a proposal that will either create the most powerful alliance in galactic history or start the most dangerous research project ever attempted. Given the choice between caution and possibility, I'm choosing possibility. Anyone who wants to return to their home system before we proceed is free to do so. She paused, looking around the command center at the faces of humans, Zephyrians, and the shimmering forms of architects who had materialized to hear her announcement. But for those who stay, we're going to try something that no species has ever attempted. We're going to create a true synthesis of our capabilities, human intuition, Zephyrian logic, and architect reality manipulation working together as a single system. Dr. Yamamoto stepped forward. Sarah, the risks are enormous, Sarah finished, but so are the opportunities. Elena, you said yourself that human consciousness naturally functions across multiple probability streams. Maybe this is what we were always meant to do. Maybe first contact wasn't the end goal, but the beginning. Rodriguez's voice came through from the planet's surface. Captain, the human volunteers down here are voting unanimously to proceed. The Architect Collective has also signaled unanimous agreement. Vexhi consulted his data displays, his skin cycling through several color patterns as he processed the information. Captain, I am receiving real-time responses from the collective leadership. They are divided. Some call your proposal impossible. Others call it inevitable. The consensus appears to be that if any species could successfully attempt such a synthesis, it would be humans. Sarah felt the familiar weight of an impossible decision, the kind that had led her to this moment 6 months ago when she had first accepted the Zephyrian partnership proposal. The difference was that now she wasn't just making the choice for her own species, but for all three. Commander Vexhi, send this message to all three governments. The Joint Research Station will proceed with synthesis trials. Participation is voluntary, but results will be shared freely. We are not seeking to create superior beings, but to explore what's possible when different types of consciousness work together. The universe is vast and full of wonders we haven't even imagined yet. We propose to imagine a few of them. As the transmission was sent, Sarah found herself thinking about that first conversation with Vexhi, when he had said that humans could increase their mission success probability by 37%. It seemed like such a small number now, considering what they were attempting. The architect representative in the command center pulsed with harmonious colors as it spoke through the station's communication grid. Captain Chen, your proposal aligns with our deepest purposes. We have existed alone in possibility space for eons. To share that existence, to teach and learn simultaneously, this is the greatest gift imaginable. And the greatest risk, Vexhi added, but his skin had shifted to a warm gold that indicated acceptance and even anticipation. Our people have decided to commit fully to this alliance. The logical analysis suggests catastrophic failure is possible, but the alternative analysis suggests transcendent success is equally possible. Sarah nodded. Then let's find out which one we're capable of. Over the following weeks, volunteers from all three species began the careful process of consciousness integration. Humans learned to perceive and manipulate possibility streams with architect guidance. Zephyrians discovered that their logical precision could stabilize and direct reality alterations that humans intuited and architects shaped. And architects found that working with biological consciousness added creativity and spontaneity to their mathematical perfection. The first successful trial came when a human Zephyrian architect team managed to prevent an asteroid impact on a nearby uninhabited planet, not by deflecting the asteroid, but by altering the probability stream that led to the collision in the first place. The asteroid simply took a slightly different path, as if it had always been destined to miss the planet. The second success was communication across the galaxy in real time, messages sent through possibility space that arrived at their destinations before they were even transmitted in normal space. The third success was the one that changed everything. A joint team managed to stabilize a dying star by accessing probability streams where it had never begun to collapse. The star simply continued burning as if its fuel had never been depleted. Standing on the observation deck 6 months after that first impossible decision, Sarah watched as human children played games that violated physics, while Zephyrian adults took notes and architect mentors guided them through lessons in reshaping reality. It was impossible, illogical, and absolutely wonderful. "Captain," Vexhai approached with the measured gait she had come to associate with important announcements. "I have received a personal message from the collective High Command. They wish me to convey their gratitude for your decision to trust us with such unprecedented responsibility." Sarah smiled. "What did you tell them?" "I told them that you had explained something to me about human decision-making that I finally understand. When faced with incomplete information and uncertain outcomes, humans choose based on hope rather than fear. This is not illogical, as we previously believed. It is differently logical." "And what did they say to that?" Vexhai's skin shifted through several warm colors. "They said that they are beginning to understand why human unpredictability has proven so effective. You do not simply adapt to unknown situations. You actively choose outcomes that expand possibility rather than limit it." Sarah looked out at the swirling patterns of reality being reshaped around their station, at the ships from dozens of species coming to learn about the new alliance, at the future unfolding in ways that no one could have predicted. "Commander, would you like to know the truth about human decision-making?" "Affirmative. We're not actually good at making decisions with incomplete information. We're terrified most of the time. But we've learned that being terrified and moving forward anyway often leads to amazing things." Vexhai considered this for a long moment. "Captain Chen, I believe I understand now why you were willing to trust us so completely in our first joint operation." "Oh?" "You were not confident in the mission's success. You were simply confident that the attempt itself was worthwhile, regardless of the outcome." Sarah nodded. "That's the most human thing you've ever said, Vexhai." As they watched, a group of young beings from all three species worked together to create something that had never existed before. A stable pocket of reality where time moved sideways and space folded in on itself to create infinite room in a finite area. It was impossible, beautiful, and utterly practical as a new kind of living space for the growing alliance. "You know what the best part is?" Sarah asked. "What is that, Captain?" "We're just getting started. Wait until we figure out what happens when we add a fourth species to the mix." Vex-High's skin shifted to a color she had never seen before. A deep, warm purple shot through with silver patterns that seemed to move on their own. Later, she would learn that this was the Zephyrian expression for joyful anticipation of impossible things. The universe, it seemed, was about to become a much more interesting place.